from top of West Mountain in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Good morning, everybody. This is 94.3 FM, The Talker. This is Sanity Check, Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. As always, if you want to start your weekend off right, you want to blow off a little steam, if you want to come down to our rally this afternoon, give us a buzz, 888-577-4487. That number is 888-577-4487. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. You know, I wish I was in studio. It sounds like a jam-packed day. And, you know, what I'm doing, well, I'm doing my part. I'm going to send some Texas sunshine down your way, so you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, it looks like the weather's going to hold. We're going to have a great day. We have a lot of individuals, not only in studio today, and a number of them, you know, Jesse Epps is with us, Cedric Curbison. We're going to have a number of individuals calling in, talking about, just touching on what this whole, not only the kids for cash, but certainly what we're talking about is custody for cash and what's happening in our court systems. And the whole idea of this, Michael, is we better start joining together. Labor, yes. Tea Partiers, Libertarians, Republicans, Democrats. You know, we have to start doing what is right. And when we can agree, we can make a difference, because that's exactly what this establishment wants to do. They want to split us apart. And where we can come to common ground, and we talk about this all the time, for the most part, we all want the same things, and we beat this over and over and over again. We all want, you know, clean air, clean water, safe and secure roofs over our heads for our children. We want quality education, and we want affordable health care. And when we have those conversations, and when we could actually talk about it, we find that there's a lot more that we agree on than we disagree on. And that's what's so beautiful about what we've been doing, what we've been trying to do. Certainly what Jesse Epps has been talking about, Cedric Curbison, both of which are in studio today. And when we start bringing this together, boy, can we make some real change. And when we have an independent and free press, somebody that will and does report on what's going on, it can be remarkable.
It really can, Lou. And, you know, the whole idea of the free press is really empowering, and I hope people realize how empowering it is. You know, simply it erases the corruption, or at least attempts to erase the corruption of government. And we certainly see plenty of that on both sides of the aisle, Lou, where it's a self-serving atmosphere in Washington, has very little interest of what the people's needs are. And it's time that we see this go, I believe, nationally, Lou. Reporting
on corruption, we're gonna start right with that. Certainly what just happened with the kids for cash, which is Chivarella and Conahan being shipped off to jail yesterday. The Independent Gazette, Frank Sorek, myself, a number of us were at the Rob Miracle sentencing. For those that might not understand, or who understands who Rob Miracle was, local business guy here. He was the money guy behind Kids for Cash. And his crime, what he got sentenced to yesterday, 1 year in prison, was not reporting a crime. And we have brought this up. We know, Michael, you know, our courts are still a cesspool. That's what I'm saying. We have a cesspool out there. And until we start calling them out and saying, wait a minute, you are either ignorant, you're uninformed, or you're complicit. When they were sending all those kids off to jail for a lot of these supposed crimes and all these other things, and there were kickbacks going on, the judges knew, the lawyers knew, the court officers knew, and yet nobody did anything. They kept their mouth shut. I'm here to tell you, Michael, they're doing the same now. When I go into the courtroom, and I've been last 5 times I've been into the courts, 4 of the times I've been thrown out. The other one was held in chambers. What's going on here, guys? What's going on? Let's bring on Frank Sorek. Frank Sorek was at the Rob Miracle hearing. Frank, what are you thinking about this? What do you think about this whole idea of not reporting the crime? And I understand, you know, you were surprised. You were surprised at the sentence. You thought it was a little more than you were expecting, and quite honestly, so was I. So good morning, Frank.
Good morning. I was surprised. I honestly thought Rob Miracle would be able to purchase his way out of jail and buy his freedom. Unfortunately, he was not, and that's refreshing to see. I was sitting in that courtroom, and I was watching the prosecutor say, "Hey, we're fine with anything. If you give the guy house arrest, whatever this court decides, we'll be fine with."
Yeah.
And listening to that, and then when I heard the judge say, the motion was granted for a downward motion so that the sentence would be reduced, and then I heard the judge almost in the same breath say, but because of the severity of the crimes, that he thought an upward motion would be in order, and then sentenced to 1 year in prison and parole after that. I thought that was, such a win, as did many of the other victims of the Kids for Cash scandal who were there, who thought this was a win, because we all expected that he would just get house arrest or, maybe 1 weekend a month or some sort of probation or parole. So to see that he'll be serving at least 1 year in jail, that was a definite win. There are those who think, he should have gotten a lot longer, and he definitely should have. I don't disagree with that, but I still believe this was a win. When you walked into a courtroom believing that he was going to get nothing, and he even believes, him and his legal team thought he was going to get nothing, and then walking out with a year sentence, that was a win.
Yeah, and there was a lot of money spent over this last 4 years to improve that image, to maybe
the judge didn't buy it for a minute.
He didn't buy it for a minute. That's right.
The judge looked at it and said, that's all well and good. However, he believed there to be ulterior motives there, as I believe there to be ulterior motives. I mean, when someone does a good deed, they should expect nothing in return. That's in the true spirit of giving, and that's what doing a good deed is about. But when you attach strings, or you're expecting a better image, or you're expecting a tax benefit or break of some sort, that's not in the true spirit of giving, at least not in my opinion, and not in the judge's either, thank God.
And certainly with the Kids for Cash, and certainly
right.
now with what we're reporting on for custody for cash.
Right. Now, although I will admit, Robert Miracle played a small part in Kids for Cash. He was merely the developer who built the detention center, and there are those that argue, if not him, someone else would have done it. He's not the one who cooked up the scam or threw the kids away, and that may be true also. But for any part in covering this up when he knew what was going on, that in itself is reprehensible.
And I think that's where I was going with this, Frank, is that we have, 3 people that have went to jail. We have the 2 judges, and now we have Miracle. Certainly in the custody for cash, we have the guardian ad litem that was just sentenced here a little over a week ago.
Right.
But to my point, and I think to all of our points, we all know, they all know, the lawyers know, these guardian ad litems know, the judges know,
right.
The court officers know. They know that something is rotten in those courtrooms. And I will say this, and I will bring this up. The legal system loves to use the word precedent. We need precedent. We need precedent. Well, let me tell you right now, we got precedent right here in River City that we can't trust what's going on in those courtrooms. And it's about time. It's about time that we have legislators that stand up. Otherwise, they don't need to be in Harrisburg. We have an election coming up. And this is the beginning. This is the beginning today. This is the spark that's going to be lit to say we've had it. You're either going to stand up, and we don't care if you're D, we don't care if you're an R, we don't care if you're an independent. If you can't stand up and do what's right, we don't need platitudes. We don't need anybody out there signing an ethics pledge telling us how they're going to be ethical. You put your words, you get your words, and we want to see the actions. We want to see those individuals that are willing to put cameras in the courtroom.
Right.
Frank, hopefully you and your family are going to be able to make it to the rally today.
I'm definitely going to be at that rally. I wouldn't miss it. And I'm encouraging everybody to show up, if for no other reason than to, just be out there in the sunshine with your children, have, there's going to be face painting for the kids. The food trucks are going to be there. It's going to be a great day. And on top of that, Lou, you might learn something, to find out what's going on in these courtrooms and to see what you could do about it and to show your support. What more could you ask for? A day of fun where you might have a little bit of education thrown in there? Come on down to Scranton at noon.
And some great music. And once again, this synergy of, that synergy of bringing people together, regardless of this whole political ideology that sometimes we allow ourselves. We have to do what's right first. We have to do what's ethical. I mean, all this other stuff doesn't really, if we don't have ethical people in our government. And
we're seeing more and more, Lou, that we don't have ethical people in our government.
And when they want to, and I promise you, there is, when they close those rooms and when they do stuff behind closed doors, I know, we all know that they're doing that for a reason. Frank, thanks for calling in. We're going to keep rolling today because we got a busy day ahead of us. Certainly that rally is today, and that's at noon. We're going to start about 11:30. We have Vitruvia, that's a Christian rock band that'll be warming up the crowd, and that's in Scranton, right on the square. We're going to roll to about 3, maybe a little after 3 today. So we're going to encourage people to come there. Certainly, it's about educating, informing, and enlightening everybody about what's going on in the courtrooms. That's for one, and then also a little bit about Nancy Schaefer. Nancy Schaefer, for the people that just might be listening, was a state senator from Georgia. She was murdered. And we're going to get Jesse Epps on here in our next segment. And he was part of the civil rights movement. He was the individual that brought Martin Luther King to Memphis. Jesse Epps was the individual that helped lead the Memphis sanitation strike. And what Martin Luther King meant to the civil rights movement, many people in this protective services feel as though Nancy Schaefer is to them. We're going to play a little clip from her, and then we're going to take a quick call, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have Jesse back. But we just want to let people get a feel who and what Nancy Schaefer is all about.
Here are a couple of the recommendations on my list. Call for an independent audit of all state child protective services and for a federal congressional hearing on child protective services. Abolish the federal and state financial incentives that have turned child protective services into a business that separates families for money. I have witnessed such injustice and harm brought to so many families that I am not sure if reform of the system is even possible. The system cannot be trusted. It does not serve the people. It obliterates families and children simply because it has the power to do so. What I have said to you in these few minutes is that we must confront the fraud in child protective services. Child Protective Services seizes children using the very system that is paid for by the taxpayer, who actually believes it is used to protect abused and neglected children. The bureaucracy of workers benefit financially by a system that converts children into cash while destroying their families and their lives. No child who emerges from the system can ever be sound or whole. Many disappear and never are ever heard from again. God will not stand for what is happening to our children and our families. His heart beats for these children. He will lift up the downtrodden. What is happening in America regarding child protective services is a criminal political phenomenon, and it must be brought to an end. Please join
Children
me.
Into cash. We have Patricia on the line. Good morning, Patricia.
Good morning, Will.
Certainly you're going to be one of the speakers today, and I think you're going to address the money factor. Can you try to capsulate before we take a break what that's all about? What is this money factor? What is the influence of money into this child protective services?
Well, in 1997, when Bill Clinton passed the Adoption Incentive, the Adoption and Safe Families Act, which is also known as the Adoption Incentive Payments, the government is getting these enormous amounts of grants called awards for the amount of kids they have being put into being adopted out. Now, in order to get these grants, the amount of adopted children needs to multiply year after year. And children and youth are targeting low-income families. They are going after people who do not have the means to fight the system. They are fabricating all of these allegations, and ultimately they are legally kidnapping these children, all to feed the greed.
You know, one of the things that I brought up, this program that might have started out for altruistic reasons, and certainly I don't think anybody necessarily goes out and says, okay, they're going to kidnap children. But over the years, because there's so much money involved, it seems as though, like everything else very often, that what starts out with for good reasons gets to be bastardized. And that's what you're going to talk about. And certainly we're going to take a break. Patricia, thank you for calling in. We're going to look forward to you talking today and educating us a little bit more on that whole money factor. When we come back, we're going to have Jesse Epps. You're listening to Sanity Check, 888-577-4487.
Sanity Check with Tea Party Mike, Libertarian Lou, Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM The Talker.
As we roll down this unfamiliar road, and although this wave is stringing us along, just know you're not alone.
You're not alone.
'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
This is your home, 94.3 FM The Talker. This is Sanity Check, Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. The number here is 888-577-4487. How do you like that? I've lost, Michael, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. So what do you think about that first segment, Michael?
Well, you know what? It's very interesting. My wife and I had that very discussion about Rob Miracle yesterday, and I was anticipating some form of jail time. I think it would be an outrage from everyone in Luzerne County to see an integral part, at least I feel that to be so, to just walk, in the sense that, he was going to buy his way out of it. And perhaps it's a little glimmer of light that says, we don't care how much money you have in your pocket. If you've done wrong, particularly against the most vulnerable of our culture, the children, you're going to pay the price. So I am very happy to see that there is a penalty for Rob Miracle.
In studio, you have met Jesse and certainly Cedric before, and their message. And one of the messages that of not only Martin Luther King, but Jesse has been talking about a lot is that we need not do nothing new. It's written on paper. God has written it on paper in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. And so if we just follow that, a lot of our ills will go away. I'd like to welcome Jesse. Good morning, Jesse. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming all the way up from Philadelphia.
Sitting up on this hill, I am just envisioned by what I see. God bless all of you in this area. And I'd like to extend my greetings to all of you as my fellow Americans. We are, my good friends, coming here to do what this program does, lifting the light. And to that end, I've come here today to tell the truth of what happened in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968. Dr. King, yes indeed, came to Memphis and made a tremendous contribution. But Dr. King, as the press would like to depict it, of myself, of the 1,500 men in the sanitation department, won the battle. That ain't so. Forget the King's English, my friend. Memphis, Tennessee, and the battle in Memphis was won by what we now know, and the truth is being brought, and I thank Lou for giving us that opportunity to shine this light. The truth about Memphis is that Dr. King came and gave his life for this nation and made an indelible contribution. But the war was won not by the labor movement, not by Dr. King, not by me, but my good friends are the 1,300 sanitation men. But the war was won by come. Jesse, what are you talking about? I see Lou stretched up his blaring his eyes, looking at me. What are you talking about? What is come? Come was the community on the move for equality, bringing everybody together under the message that Dr. King had come to illuminate. And everybody came together, laying aside their differences and coming together. And I see you are doing the same thing here, and that's what drew me to this area.
Right. And that's why we are together.
Because, my dear friend, injustice anywhere, Dr. King said it best.
Is injustice everywhere?
Everywhere.
You know, Jesse, one of the things that has happened with the custody for cash and what we've seen in the courts, certainly we play a lot of clips. It's really remarkable. A lot of the things that Martin Luther King spoke about is so relevant today. We have an individual on the phone that I'm going to bring on, but let's play that clip because this is important, and I'm going to jump in on this, Jesse, and then we're going to bring somebody else. I want you to listen. Let's just listen to King here for a moment.
That the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. So just as I say, we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen.
And we're not going to, and this is the point, just what he just said there. We're not going to let any longer any illegal gag orders shut us up. And I have an individual that's going to be speaking today or maybe speak at the rally today, because what happens so often in our courts is the intimidation factor. But June, good morning, June.
Good morning.
Hey, and we just played that little clip, and I think this is important and it's relevant to what is going on today. In your case, you were told to take down a video because they just didn't like it. Your First Amendment right. It's like these gag orders that come out, and just like King said, we're not gonna let any water hoses turn us around any longer. We're not gonna let any illegal junction turn us around. And you know what? Together, all of us, and it's not easy. And when we talk about being brave and standing up, you know, we're not going to let any more of these illegal gag orders turn us around. And when you're by yourself and when you're out there alone, it's scary. But when we start bringing these groups together, when we start bringing people like yourself together and the Independent Gazette together and all the men and women and mommies and daddies that have contacted us, when we start bringing groups like Jesse Epps's group in here, America Rebirth Tour, all of a sudden we start having the power. So just briefly, succinctly, tell us what your story was and one of the stories that are going to be told at this rally today.
I think it's just about money. It's just they look and see who is going to be afraid.
Who's going to be afraid, yeah.
I think they look and see who's going to be afraid, who's going to give up everything they can to follow the law, and that's the person they pinpoint. They put you in a corner, and they go at you like a pack of wolves.
And you've been fighting for your. I know your story. It's heart-wrenching, and you haven't given up.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a child. You can't give up on your children.
You come every week. You travel quite a distance.
2 hours every week to pay to see them for 3 hours and drive 2 hours back home for 7 years.
Pay to see your children.
To see my children.
June, thank you. Thanks for coming on. Go ahead, Jesse. You have something to say real quick?
I'm just so moved by this mountaintop experience that has brought us together. You see, we have an acronym that is inclusive of all of us. And that acronym is NUAF, neighbors. Everybody is a neighbor to somebody. Uniting American families. And to that end, we are honored to have the privilege to be on your program here, is to talk about the Declaration of America's Rebirth, call for the people to reaffirm, uphold, and defend those precious and relevant documents and ideas, such as one nation with liberty and justice for all. In light of the recent events, namely, you have just identified some, but this jumps to the pinnacle. The recent government shutdown. We as a nation could have been better served if our voices had been heard, keeping the nation up and running and not acquiescing to politicians to use the events for partisan politics, usurping the power of we the people, have not been a factor that ought to be the daily exercise of our intercourse with each other. So to that end, we are calling on you. We the people must come together.
Yes.
To accomplish that. And to that end, I salute you, Luke.
No, Jesse, and it's our whole team, and so many individuals are involved with this, and thank you for that. But you know, one of the reasons we started the Gazette, and certainly we appreciate the ability to be on the radio, is to get that message out. June, we look forward to seeing you today. Thanks so much for calling in, and once again, we encourage people to show up at this rally. And that's what we're doing here today also, Jesse and Cedric, and for people that are listening. It's going to be short segments. We're going to have these uplifting songs. We have a number of individuals coming here, speaking from not only from the heart, but they're also going to hopefully educate the press, the media. So many of that have been unwilling to talk about this because it involves the powerful, the rich.
Ooh.
Yes, June.
It's very scary. I'm terrified.
You're
terrified. They're going to take 3 hours away. Probably. That's what I foresee.
For just showing up today.
Maybe. I don't know. My representation was true on Friday.
But my dear, I'd like to say to you.
A week ago.
Lou has been a shining light on the top of a hill in terms of light. So in your app, the message I just introduced is being fostered through a grassroots effort called America Rebirth Tour, of which I am honored to be sitting here today and be a spokesman for them, to be one of the necessary voices.
Well, and to that end, as you say, Jesse, June, we know, I know, and so many people have come forward that can't speak, only because when your children are held in the balance, this is why this is so touching to me. There, court officers, professionals have come, June, as you know, and we've related some stories together that can't come forward, can't talk because they're going to lose their practices because of the intimidation factor. But when we talk like individuals to you, like you, and And this is not about losing your practice. This is not about losing your money. They hold kids over your head. They hold everything that's so dear to us over our heads. And that's why, as we bring people together, our only hope is in strength in numbers. June, thanks for calling. I look forward to seeing you down there today. We'll give you a big hug, and we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Ostrowski on the phone. We got a couple other people calling. We got X. We got Mike. We got all kinds of people that want to get in on the line. You're listening to Sanity Check. We'll be back in a moment.
Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM, The Talker.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw. Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up, I still see your ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. Oh, what do I stand for? What do I stand for? Most nights I don't know anymore.
What are you standing for? Huh? Why don't we all start standing up for something here? 94.3 FM The Talk. You listen to Sanity Check. Libertarian Lou, Tea Party Mike. We're going to bring X on for a moment, and we got Andy Ostrowski waiting on the line. X, what do you got to say? You've been listening to who's in the studio here and what's going on. What's your insight?
I think the big thing we need to get that you've been covering that really is the real story. It's the fact that people, when they come together, cannot rely on most of the press sources that are out there today because they've been co-opted by both political parties to further their agenda. So it's only a left or a right type of issue, not what is a right versus wrong issue.
And that's the main thing. You know what? We all know what's going on is wrong. We all know it. And so many people, and so many people that are going to come to this rally today have felt hopeless. I had an individual that contacted me from Virginia yesterday, and she's been one of the individuals that have helped organize this rally today. And to let people know, this is preseason. This is the preseason rally. We're just starting. You know, we're gonna we're getting our groundwork together, and as we move forward, the World Series perhaps is going to be at election time, and we need to get that information out there for those individuals that are going to stand up and really, you know, as the tires hit the road, as they say, you know, let's we want to see some action, X, and that's what's so important here.
Yeah, the other thing is the fact that, you know, my hat's off to Jesse because as an example for all of us, it's the fact that he never just gave up after a few years. He's been doing this for his lifetime, always arguing for what is right. And each of us should use him as an example to follow from the standpoint of this is a marathon, and it's not a sprint. And the only way we're really going to make our world, our country, a better place is by constantly being engaged and always relying on the truth above all else.
I was talking about that individual from Virginia, and I had lost my train of thought. There's a surprise, Michael. But she wrote me the other day and said, for all these years, I finally have some hope. And I think that's what's so important. Let's bring Andy on. Good morning, Andy.
Hey, good morning, Lou. How you doing? And thanks for those comments, X. I'm right with you on what you had to say there.
Andy, you're going to be speaking. You've worked in the civil rights as a lawyer for a very long period of time. You're running for Congress. We haven't asked anybody else from the political realm to speak at this, but because you have brought this issue to us in many different ways, because you have made it a cornerstone, like X just talked about Jesse. You have made this very important in your life. You're speaking today, and once again, as this time succinctly, what is that message? What is this message about the courtrooms, and what is going to be the cornerstone of your campaign?
Well, the message is that we have a broken system across all political spectra. We have a broken legislative system. We have a broken executive because we have a broken judicial system. We have a broken, what I call the fairness administration system of our government. And when that breaks down, everything breaks down. It slants the playing field in favor of big money and the big banks and the big corporations and the big law firms, and, cuts out the individual. That's been my experience. That's what I'm going to talk about. That's what we're going to focus on. And I'm going to ask, and Lou, it's a little bit of, providence of some sort or other that, I found you or we found each other, because I have been talking for, the past couple of years. I have an organization that I call the Pennsylvania Civil Rights Law Network.
Right.
And I'm hoping, to set it up in the long term as an alternative media to cover the courts, because we just don't have an independent media shining the light on the judiciary that needs to be shown on it. And that's one of the real problems. This judiciary that we have operates in relative secrecy. We get attention to the big, sexy, abortion issues in the Supreme Court, or the gay marriage issues in the Supreme Court. But we don't get attention to the millions of people across this country that are going through and losing their homes and having their children, taken from them, and spending fortunes trying to get justice, and are feeling left out and cut out of the system. And really, what I hope to do, and I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need your listeners' help. Let's make the 11th Congressional District in Pennsylvania the judicial reform, court reform, government reform district for the first time in American history. You don't see and hear politicians, legislators, or executives talking about these very serious court reform issues. So let's get out and let's make 2014 the year that we get attention on these issues, and that's what I want to talk about.
And it is so important, because if we don't have justice, if we have to buy our justice in America, what do we have then? I mean, seriously, we do talk about all these other issues, and we brought this up, and Michael, we have brought up so many different issues, but we always keep bringing it back. We always keep bringing it back to the same place. Nothing changes until we have a free and independent press and free and equal elections. And then with that, we could look at people's hearts, what they're really about, what they want to, we don't want the platitudes once again, and we brought this up, and we don't want any fake pledges. We want to see people really putting legislation into effect. Andy, you know as well as I do, so often what has happened in our judicial system, laws have just been spoken into existence by judges, by the lawyers. And then the legislators who have the power to rein them in have abdicated that power.
Well, you got to understand, and this is something that needs to be understood, particularly in Pennsylvania. And in the federal system, yes, Congress has control over the courts. That's why I'm running for Congress. Congress has direct oversight responsibilities and legislative responsibilities. There's a very unique problem in Pennsylvania that people need to understand, and it's about Article 5, Section 10C of the Pennsylvania Constitution, which gives the courts complete and exclusive authority over all things court-related. The legislature and the executive in Pennsylvania effectively, by Constitution, Constitutional Convention and amendments in 1968, have no control, no authority over the courts. That really needs to be a high priority for people to look into for serious court reform in the state of Pennsylvania. I'll talk about that a lot in my campaign, and figure out ways that Congress can act in oversight. I mean, my general theory of it is, any time, whether it's at a district magistrate level in Dunmore, or a county court level in Montgomery County, that any time a person is denied due process, that's a federal rights violation. I'm going to talk about things like setting up a judicial oversight panel for the whole country. Things of that nature that really delve into these issues. But you're absolutely right. And, you talk about the laws being written into existence, and I agree with you there. But we also have a problem with laws that are being written out of existence, or, this is 50 years since the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. That's a law I have a lot of familiarity with. Yet we still have such widespread bigotry and mistreatment and abuse and whistleblower oppression and retaliation. And that's because the courts aren't effectively administering the laws that are already on the books. We don't need new laws. We need the laws that are there enforced, and we need judges to stop what you're saying and legislating from the bench. So it's a pretty comprehensive problem, Lou.
Oh boy, Andy, thanks for the information. This is good. You'll be here. You'll be talking to that issue today. We welcome people to come to the rally. That's going to be at noon to really about 11:30 today on to about 3 o'clock. You'll be there. You'll be speaking to this. And if individuals want to learn a little bit more about what you're talking about, that's some interesting stuff right there. X, Andy, thanks for calling in. X, Michael. You guys want to comment real quick on a little bit what Andy just had to say?
I was just going to say the scariest part is the fact that we somehow think that we need to have political candidates making pledges to be honest. when all we need to do is this: start prosecuting people for failure to live up to the oath to follow the Constitution. That's it.
All right.
Prosecutions for violations of the Constitution and their oath.
Michael, give us your thoughts, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll bring Jesse back online when we go to the next break.
Lou, all as I'm listening here and I'm making an observation, and our nation has become such a culture of self, of what I can do for myself, what I get out of it for myself. And here's a situation as I'm listening where it has turned that around, where there's a group of folks getting together to help others. And I find that so encouraging, Lou. And can you imagine if we can take this nationwide, that we no longer look at ourselves and our own interests, but for our neighbor's interests? So let's just keep up the fight.
You got Jesse. Everybody's throwing up their hands in the air and saying, Michael, you got it. And this is Tea Party Mike. You know what? And we got the labor here sitting here. And we're going to have the church groups coming. When we start doing the right thing, Michael, you know what? We're tired of it. We're tired of getting our labels. We're tired of people saying, listen, this is what you're supposed to be. You just spoke it from your heart, Michael, and that's who you always are, and that's why we love you. But the thing is that, this is not about them labels. We started talking about this years ago when we first started here. We're in our third year. Don't tell us what we're supposed to be. Let's look into the hearts. And when our hearts are pure, we will make that difference. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Jesse. You're listening to 94.3 FM The Talker. This is Sanity Check.
Right here. Sanity Check with Tea Party Mike, Libertarian Lou, Saturday mornings, 94.3 FM The Talker.
So wake me up when it's all over, when I'm wiser and I'm older. All this time I was finding myself and I didn't know I was lost. So
we know who's going to wake us up. Jesse Epps is going to wake us up. You're listening to 94.3 FM The Talker. This is Sanity Check.
No. You have already awakened us.
Collectively, Jesse. Collectively,
yes,
we're going to wake us up, and we're inviting people to come to the rally today, right? And listen to you.
And not just to me.
No, everybody.
I am so happy to be part of this movement, that the vision that Dr. King has had, and the vision of John F. Kennedy, the vision of all Americans, of being brought to the fore. And Lou, I thank God for you.
No,
to be getting this message out from this mountaintop. You see, my friends out there, as we told you, we're going to that acronym of NUF, Neighbors Uniting American Families, bringing us all together, my good friends. This message, Lou had been doing all of his life. And to that end, we have been blessed. A group has come together to take a part of this load. And they're calling themselves America Rebirth Tour, getting the message out about what we're talking about.
Am I going on tour, Jesse, too?
Oh, yes, indeed. You surely are, my friend. Well, you're already on the tour. You
hear that, Michael? We're going on tour.
Yeah, indeed, to make America what she ought to be by turning on the light
And returning back to the principles of the
and going back, you see, the America Rebirth Tour could not be more timely celebrated in getting out the message of America. We must return to the truths stated in the U.S. Constitution.
Yes, sir.
And the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
The voice of we the people are the driving force. And in fact, we are the government.
Yes.
And it's to that end, this light will show us our path and others that are marching with us to the goal. And so to that end, my friends, the government is not the Congress of the President, or the governor of the state legislature, or the judges that are sitting up there ripping folks off. The government is we the people. So that is why we're coming now together to give them instruction and direction.
And let this be the spark.
Indeed. Dr. King made it clear, and he said it in the most simplest of terms. He said, America, we don't need to do nothing new, but live up to what we have on paper. and that's all we need to do, Mr. Judge, and Mr. Court, and Mr. Governor, and Mr. Councilman, and Mr. President, live up to what we have on paper.
On paper.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Cedric. Fill us in a little bit. Tell us, am I going on tour with you or what? Can I be a star?
Well, you know, we did something monumental this week, and it was right here with you. You had met with, called Jesse Epps when you were having this issue. It's been going on for a couple of months.
Yep.
And when you said that you were going to do this rally here, you called Jesse Epps, and I watched the Jesse Epps call into the labor movement, his brothers of life, and he dispelled every myth that there is out there.
Yeah.
Because Tea Party Mike and Libertarian Lou
they say, what are you talking about?
And talking to the leadership of labor. And they're united as one. And today they're going to be together out there at that square. So it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to love to see it. I'm going to love to be a part of it because this is America.
Cedric,
we the people.
A little bit more about the Rebirth Tour. Now you're actually going to, you and Jesse and certainly some of the people we're going to meet today perhaps are going to get on and we're going to take this message. And Michael, you've mentioned this before. Take this message around the country.
Yes.
Can you imagine the power of this?
Well, you know, Jesse Epps exampled it back in Memphis, and when they were marching down the streets, you know, it was in, you know, with the what do you call it, the humility of being able to be beaten and doing all these other things. Today, we have cameras, we have lights, we're turning on the lights, so we're marching again, but we're having fun. We're bringing in the right music. We're bringing in the right entertainment because all we have to do is walk around with this piece of paper. They proved it back then when they walked down the street and they changed the nation's laws forevermore. So we're just going back and using that methodology. And
I'm excited.
We're coming out there today, and we'll give you a little sample of bringing in a few of the artists that will be traveling with us. And we're just going to be having fun.
Michael X, I'm excited about the whole movement, exactly what we and certainly talked about a while back. When one of the reasons we started the Independent Gazette, we certainly hope people get involved with what we're doing because as you guys grow, we will grow.
Yes, sir.
X, Mike, who wants to jump in first?
Well, you know, Lou, I just want to real brief. And you and I, we started this, the whole group of the paper, and you know, it wasn't for self-stardom, and I want people to understand that.
Absolutely, you're right.
It's not looking for.
We're going to come and go, Michael. We're going to come and go.
We're just looking for results, looking for the results that were given to us by our Creator through the Constitution, and a gift that our children should be passed on, not to be denied the same things and the opportunities that we've had.
X.
I think it's important for us to always remember that we always have more in common than more than what divides us. And, you know, the problem is the way people build political groups is always focusing on what's different about us, whereas I think we can all agree on one particular issue or a few, and those being the things that we need to have a constant commitment to the truth and a constant commitment to
justice,
speaking out to power.
Yeah. And I think somewhere along the way we talked about, and maybe Andy had touched on this, the intimidation factor, what happens to whistleblowers. I know, X, you always bring that up. And that's one of the things that we've done with the paper. And that's one of the, Jesse, I got to tell you, we're inundated from around the country, around the world. People are calling us and saying, help, we heard you guys could help. I mean, think about this. We got this little paper that we started in Wilkes-Barre, but it's growing.
It is not a little paper. It is a voice.
A voice.
In the wilderness. And to that end, joining hands together, following the blueprint, the Declaration of Independence that made us one nation, one people, one race. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Michael, do you notice that Jesse keeps coming back to that? Keeps coming back to it. We need not do nothing new. Let's just start living up to what God has given to us on paper.
Absolutely.
And that was King's message. That's our message. That's the message we should all have. And we shouldn't be bending down to these illegal gag orders.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't have to be afraid of intimidation. Jesse, you said that they work for us. When are we all going to start? When is the Tea Party? When is the Libertarians? When is the labor movement? When are the churches? And the churches are going to be there today. They're going to be well represented. When do we start joining hands and saying, wait a minute, what is happening in these courtrooms? What is going on in our country? There's something not right. When do we get back to the principles of just, self-respect?
And Lou, I'm sitting here today, and it is exciting that this has begun now. And thanks to you.
Yes, and all of us.
We're bringing us all together to get this done.
And the question was, the question was, when is this going to happen? Well, thank you, Lou. Today is going to happen.
We're starting today. That's right.
Yes, sir.
I did want to mention that Father Pickard, a local priest here, is going to be giving the blessing. Rabbis coming in today to give their blessings, and some nuns are certainly going to be there today. We have individual Lindy Morelli is going to be singing a few songs for us. I mean, so this is encouraging, and Jess, we got people from. You know what? David Madeira said it best, and I encourage people to listen to David Madeira's show from 6 to 9 right here on 94.3 FM The Talker. He says, you know what? I don't know how you guys are doing it, and he was talking about the paper. He says, but you know what? You got the tattoo people, you got the Tea Partiers, you got the pot smokers and Jesus lovers. We start bringing when there is power, when we're bringing all kinds of people together on, especially on issues that of the heart of what's right. Nothing can stop us.
Nothing. Neighbors. I don't care who you are, where you are. You are neighbors to somebody. Let's come together.
And when we do have problems, right, who do we rely on? Are we waiting for the big government to come in to help us? No, it's usually our neighbors that are right there. Those are the people that we can rely on. And that's part of what you're doing with this whole, the new with America Rebirth Tour is building those foundations.
Yeah, we say we're calling white people. We're calling black people. We're calling all in between, even the skinny and fat people. The Muslims, the Christians.
The tall and thin, everybody.
We got the Muslims, the Christians, the atheists, and Jews. If you're breathing air, then we're talking to you. So come on down to 12 o'clock. At the, what is it called?
We're going to be right on the square. Yep, and we encourage folks to come down and listen to what's going on. And you might just start forming some friendships you never thought you'd be able to form.
It is symbolic. Yes, where you're holding the meeting. You're holding it on the square.
On the square. Jesse, we're down. Michael, as always, we're down to the last 1 minute and 17 seconds and counting. So, X, real quick, last thought.
Just spread the word, guys. Spread the word.
Michael, we're down to our last minute, so I'm encouraged, Michael. I'm encouraged about what we're doing and proud about what we started. We asked people to check us out. Go to the Independent Gazette. Certainly, the message that we're putting out, and as we grow, you have a voice. You have that voice in the wilderness, like Jesse just said, and we'll see you down at the square. Michael, as always, you got the last word, my friend.
Hey, God bless all, and look for God for the answers.
Yes, sir. We'll see you next week and on the square today. Have a great weekend, guys.
If you've been let down by the political class, then you're looking for Sanity. Saturday mornings on 94.
Oh, that was a good show today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Goes by fast, I am.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
It always was.
That was awesome. Appreciate it. Great.
Yeah. We're gonna. Yep, we're just starting, man.
I knew it.
There we go. Excellent show.
What's the libertarians? She said, you gotta be kidding me.
3 FM, the talker.
You got to worry.
Did you take your blood pressure medicine? Me, I'm good.
So I put this right here.